Every day in the pro-life movement, there are parents sending their children to war, the war against abortion. Children out there on the front lines, often being caught in the crossfire. Children are enlisted to fight this battle against abortion under potentially dangerous conditions. They're jumping under cars, they're getting pushed and shoved in the melee, handcuffed, and some of them even arrested. Just last week alone, shots were fired at an abortion clinic in Louisiana, where children and adults were protesting. The question we're asking today is, do these children really belong in the abortion war? And do they really understand what they're fighting for? Today, we're going to talk to some pro-life parents and tackle the tough issue of using children to fight the war on abortion. That's right now on Rolonda. This is a show that's going to get a lot of folks in the nation thinking today and maybe becoming aware of some of the new faces on the front lines out there as the abortion battle continues. The National Abortion Federation reports that this year alone there have been 2 murders, 1 bombing, and 4 arsons at different abortion clinics nationwide. The children in this pro-life movement claim they want to be involved in this war. They want to fight to stop what they call the murdering of innocent babies. Our first guests, 12-year-old Joshua and 13-year-old Sarah, are 2 children both actively involved in the battle against abortion. And as little soldiers in this big war against abortion, both of these children have already been arrested. What is it like to be a kid as young as you are, Joshua, getting arrested?
Well, I know that babies are being killed in there, so I want to help them.
Mm-hmm. Did it bother you when you were taken off being arrested?
No, because I knew the babies are even being hurt more.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, what about you? I mean, how do you tell people, I just got arrested today as such a young child? What makes you stand out there and risk being arrested?
Well, the fact that there's other babies in there being killed.
Mm-hmm. Are these your words or Mommy and Daddy's words?
My own words.
Me too.
You too?
Yep.
What made you, Joshua, decide that you wanted to go out there and protest?
Because babies were being killed.
Mm-hmm. Who was it who got you to go? Did anybody encourage you, or did you?
No, I just saw pictures and stuff like that of babies.
And you made the decision yourself?
Yep.
And you too, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Josh and Sarah's mission perhaps comes naturally. Their father is Reverend Truella, the co-founder of Missionaries to the Preborn, a well-known anti-abortion group. Reverend Truella has also ended up in jail himself. He was recently released after serving a month-long sentence for disorderly conduct outside an anti-abortion demonstration outside a clinic. In fact, Newsweek names Truella as a convicted arsonist and one of half a dozen anti-abortionists now under investigation for violent acts against abortion clinics. I'd also like you to meet Joan Clark, who runs the Milwaukee Clinic Protection Coalition. She says she's concerned about Josh and Sarah after seeing them in some very dangerous situations. She says anti-abortion rallies are no place for children. Adults, talk to us about this. Reverend Truella, tell us, were these, a lot of people who listen to Joshua and Sarah say, oh, they're just rattling off the words that Mom and Dad have planted into their heads. They really are too young to understand what they're getting involved in.
Well, we're not socialists, and we believe that we should educate our children. We don't believe that the government schools should educate them, or the cultural or media elitists should educate them either. We believe that we should educate them. So the things that we do as a family. And one of the things that we're involved in is trying to protect the preborn from being killed. And because we're involved in that, they're involved in that. Mm-hmm. Just like, you know, if a mom and dad collected stamps, for example, and we're involved in stamp collecting.
Well, now this is a lot. This is, I know, with all due respect, this is a bit more serious than collecting stamps, I would think.
Oh, I agree.
Especially when we hear about all the murders that are happening outside of abortion clinics, the amount of violence. I mean, the whole audience winced when they watched the video of people underneath cars there. Is that a place for children, or isn't there another way to teach them what you believe is right and wrong?
Well, the thing that's going on is preborn babies are being killed inside the abortion clinic. These kids have seen the pictures of these preborn babies. They know that they're human beings, and they want to protect them from being killed. So that's why they're doing what they're doing. They asked if they could try to rescue these babies, and I told them yes, they can try to rescue the babies, and they went out and did it.
Joan?
Rolonda, yeah, let me just make one point, and that is Matt Truella says as a family they're going to rescue babies because it's their common belief. But the times I've seen Josh and Sarah at clinics, including when Josh was a very little boy, I have to emphasize that, his parents were not there. I don't know where they were, but they were nowhere near this demonstration.
Rolonda,
somebody else
let me
brought
tell
them,
you.
and somebody else took them away. And when the
And that
on one
raises what kind of concern?
for my kids, aren't you,
on one
Joan?
particular day,
The woman who
first,
helps take
excuse
little
me.
babies into the abortion clinic so they can be killed, you're concerned about my children.
One day, the first time
You're
I
a
saw
hypocrite,
Mr.
Joan.
Truella was at Hardy's restaurant after his kids were in an extremely violent situation for quite a while. Neither parent was anywhere near that clinic when that happened.
From the audience.
There was nothing violent going on.
I
weren't
have
there.
seen many of
You
these
weren't there.
situations as well. Not only is neither parent near the children, we've had children that are in danger of being run over, and particularly in Milwaukee, which is where we are from, it gets very, very cold in the winter. We have seen on so many occasions tiny children with no mittens, unsupervised, running from spot to spot, and in fact we've been terribly frightened for their safety, and particularly in this very volatile situation.
I'm not.
Rolonda,
yeah.
let me tell you. Both Trina and Joan talking about the fact that they are concerned about my children is like Joseph Stalin saying that he's concerned about Ukrainians. I mean, it's a crock, and it's absolute hypocrisy. They help kill babies.
Excuse me, but I'm 14 years old and extremely pro-choice and offended by everything you've said. But on that issue, I would say that my parents are there for my safety, and they protect me. I've gone to pro-choice demonstrations. I've walked with women into clinics seeking abortions. But the point is that my parents are there to protect me, and I've made a decision about my political views towards this issue. And unfortunately, it's become a political issue because of lunatics like you. And you know, I mean, you guys are zealots. You're using violence to get your point across. And I was just going to say is that I think the American public needs to see that you guys are well put together violent conspiracy.
So what's your point?
Well, let me ask Sarah, when people
point?
say these attack your father by calling him a zealot, saying he's just taken this thing to an extreme measure, what do you feel inside? Do you sometimes feel that it's a bit much for a kid to handle?
Well, they're wrong, first place.
Okay, from the audience.
Yeah, I'd like to say, you had said that she shouldn't be worried about your children. Well, who is going to be if you're not? I mean, if you're not there with your kids,
Oh, wait
who's
a minute,
there
wait a
with them?
minute.
And two,
She
don't you think
said-
it's a lot for a child to have to think of that at such a young age? They have so many other things in life that they should be enjoying. I'm not saying whether it's right or it's wrong. I'm saying for
We
your
care
own
for our
children.
children.
I understand
We
that if you
homeschool
do,
our children.
then you
we
would
don't
protect
send them off to the
them.
government school. We
Well,
care for them.
We have
don't
a
abrogate our responsibility to the state. We care for our children.
Reverend,
You're
isn't
believing
there-
what she is saying when it's not true.
My understanding is that there's a place where many people in the pro-choice movement are sending their kids almost like a training session of how to train to be a protester. We have a lady who's going to join us right after this commercial who you might some people call a spy for the pro-choice movement. She wanted, or a spy of it, she wanted to see firsthand what was going on in these anti-abortion training sessions for children, and she says she was shocked. She'll tell you what she found out right after this. Yeah, you have something to say also? There's been enough violence in the front lines outside of abortion clinics in this war against abortion that last year doctors resigned in more than 30% of the abortion clinics across this nation. Many of them resigned because they feared becoming another victim of anti-abortion violence, and that has left many women with fewer places to go for an abortion. I guess, Matthew, that's exactly what you're trying to see happen.
No, what we're trying to do is follow the command of Christ to love our neighbor as ourselves. These preborn children are human beings for whom Christ died, and we are trying to show love to them and minister on their behalf.
From the audience.
Yeah, I think it's fine to educate our kids on many issues out there. But what I'm concerned about is teaching hate. And I'd like to ask Joshua who he feels the enemy is, and if he's heard other points of view from pro-choice people, for example.
If they care about me, she came skidding across a corner one day and almost ran me over.
Well, do you see I mean, have you heard both sides of the issue? There are those, I think, Joan, you're one of them, who says that these kids are far too young to understand what they're really getting involved in.
I don't think a 6 or an 8 or even a 10-year-old who has experienced none of life really, except one would hope a little bit of education and some religious training, can hope to understand the abortion issue. It's a very complicated issue. Now, when people like Mr. Truella tell me that even a child can understand this is so simple, that it's a baby, I say, maybe the problem is you've simplified the issue too much and you don't understand it. Maybe it's a little more complicated
Well, it's pretty easy,
than saying
Joan.
a 5-day
You pull out a
zygote is a
picture
baby
of a
and more
preborn
important
baby,
than, excuse me, a
and you show
woman
the
who is
child
already alive.
the picture and you ask, what is that? And you know what? They all say it's a baby.
The vast
because
number,
there's arms and legs
the vast
and heads.
number, 95% of abortions are done when there's no, it's not a baby, it's
Yes,
a zygote. It is a
Listen,
zygote.
it is so easy to educate, Rolonda, children about child killing. Just go to the public library, pull out a medical textbook on fetal development, and show them yourself what these babies look like. The majority of abortions are done between 8 and 12 weeks. They're not done at all until 7 weeks, and they do them all the way up to 28 weeks. So let them see for themselves what these babies in the womb
I
look
think
like.
a lot of the concern, at least what our guest here will say, and this is Ann, the lady, they call you a spy, Ann. Why? You went into some training sessions. Explain to us what this training session was that you snooped into.
I attended some lifeguard training that the children attend before they go and rescue and blockade the clinic doors. And I was curious. I wanted to see what drove these children to do it, what desire they had, why they were doing it, and what they were being taught.
And what did you find out?
I found out a lot of it was camaraderie. They were doing it to have fun. It was notches on their belt. If you weren't arrested more than several times, why were you there?
I understand that the research on you says that you were concerned that sometimes these arrests are like status symbols among a group of children.
Correct.
What is this with the training session? Have your children been to training sessions?
Yeah, they've gone to the lifeguard training.
And what do you learn, Sarah? What do you learn in these sessions?
Well, you just learn to be silent and nonviolent. Just sit down at the abortion clinic door and don't scream and act erratic. And they read you Bible verses and they give you a little message.
The training I attended, the children were encouraged to push, shove, dodge, crawl between legs, do anything. I attended several.
Well, let me tell you, we have you on tape, Matthew. It was a tape, thank you very much, that disturbed some people with Planned Parenthood who got it and sent it to us because it is advocating more than just shoving. Let's take a look at a tape that we got in from Planned Parenthood a few minutes.
So I told the congregation this Christmas, I want you to do the most loving thing. And I want you to buy each of your children an SKS rifle and 500 rounds of ammunition.
I think that concerns a lot of Americans, regardless of what side of the abortion issue you're on. How do you justify that remark?
Let's contextualize where this speech was taken from. Planned Parenthood said that they had infiltrated a meeting and captured this on videotape. The truth of the matter is, it was a public meeting in which I was doing a speech at the U.S. Taxpayers Party. It was a political meeting. I was asked to speak on a constitutional topic, and I was speaking on the purpose of the Second Amendment. My speech was videotaped by the Taxpayers Party itself and had been available for sale to the public for 2 months before
regardless
Planned
of the tape,
Parenthood
it's the
came out with
words
their
on the
smear
tape that I
campaign.
think concern many of us who are trying so desperately to teach our children to stand up for what they believe in, but not in a violent way. And when you have news reports of people getting blown away outside of clinics, and children are out there, it's very scary. In fact, I understand that your youngest child, Jeremiah, is called Trigger Finger Jeremiah by the folks out there on the front line.
That might be what Joan told you, but that's not true. His name's Jeremiah, and he's my son. The
Well,
truth of the
Mr.
matter
Torella
is
did further
is
on
that
this tape talk about Jeremiah saying, Jeremiah, toe, 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 finger, 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 trigger finger, Jeremiah.
Right.
Jeremiah, where's your trigger finger?
Right, and I
then
know for a
Jeremiah holds
fascist
up
like you, Joan,
his finger.
that
I
you
thought I was
can't
a
have
socialist, now I'm a
lighthearted-
fascist. You
Yeah,
got to make up your mind.
There's
And
really
from
not
the
much
audience.
difference, Joan. There's no difference.
I want to know, at this young age, how can children have such a strong opinion about abortion at such a young age? I am 32 and I haven't made a opinion on abortion yet. And I feel you only teaching your children about abortion. How can they form their own
Have
opinion
you
so
gone
young?
to the public library and pulled out a medical textbook on fetal development? Okay, go do it.
So many of you have mentioned that you're concerned about the lives of children that you can see, flesh and blood, standing like these two on the end here. But you're forgetting 4,000 a day that are murdered inside the abortion clinics. You're forgetting that really all we want to do is give you an opportunity. The side against us seems to be with the name choice. You say it's choice, but you don't want us out there with our children talking to mothers and seeing if mothers would turn around.
How many mothers do you guys outside the clinics get to turn around?
I can tell you personally, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, since Operation Rescue National was in our city, it woke up Christians that were sitting there like this gentleman here.
And how many decided not to get abortions because of your efforts?
I stood out there for a year after this national group came out.
And how many?
And sometimes up to 12 a day would turn away from there and go to Christ's pregnancy centers and be glad they got the message that there was a choice.
Okay.
And the choice was life.
Okay, all right. When we come back, we have a guest who has made quite a name for herself in the pro-life movement. She was expelled from school for passing out graphic anti-abortion literature. She's been arrested 80 times. She's facing a possible 5-year jail sentence, and she is only 16 years old. We'll be back and introduce you to her right after this.
Matthew, what denomination of your church?
Non-denominational.
I figure that. The lady next to you?
Joan.
Joan, I would like to know, how could you go to bed at night and seeing these children being withered to death like this? Don't you know there's a God above? Amen. Don't you know that?
You know, I do. And for
Okay,
you and
thank
for
you.
Mr. Truella and his children, I'll say, we live in the United States of America. We have a First Amendment. You can say whatever you want. You can teach your kids whatever you want. But if you try to use your kids to impose your views on me and other women, I say, you've gone too far.
Wait a minute, Joan.
Keep those kids at home.
Wait a minute,
My
Joan.
views are not the same as his views. He can think whatever he wants, and I think what I want.
Wait a minute.
From the audience.
Wait a minute. Joan has people. Wait a minute. Joan has people arrested in Milwaukee every week for simply picketing on a public sidewalk and thrown in jail. That's how much she believes in freedom.
I'm a very powerful person. I can say, boom, arrest that
That's
woman.
right, you can.
From the audience, from the audience.
I just would like to basically make an observation. There's a difference between education and indoctrination. Yeah. And what you're doing to your children under the premise of concerned parenthood is just, I mean, you're sacrificing their childhood, their own experience of learning about the world for themselves. You're just putting these ideas, instilling and brainwashing them, and you're doing them a disservice. I feel for them, I really do.
I have felt too that you're only giving the children only one side of the coin. They don't have the second side of the coin. What would you do if your 13-year-old daughter was raped by some psychopath who was a real sicko, a dope addict?
Why don't you ask her what she would do?
No, because you're the one who's
she
going to
would
make
have
the choice.
child.
She would have the child?
That's correct.
She would have the child. Do you believe in justifiable homicide? Is that... Matthew? There's this big talk also that goes as part of the anti-abortion movement, and that is that a lot of the murders of clinic workers and clinic doctors have been called by some in the movement justifiable homicide. My understanding, and I saw on a petition that you had signed to support justifiable homicide as a means to fight this war.
That's correct.
How do you justify in the face of your children murder?
No, what I refused to do in signing that statement was condemn what Michael Griffin had done. And I'd be more than happy to tell you why I refused to condemn what he did. If you will
And
tell
Michael
me,
Griffin is currently accused of gunning down
If you will tell me why you don't condemn what David Gunn and all these abortionists do.
I think murder of someone outside of an abortion clinic because of what they believe in, I don't happen to see that as right. That's just my opinion, sir.
What about the killing of the preborn?
I happen to be for pro-choice. That's just my opinion.
Well, then why are you, why do you wonder?
And you know something,
why
and I
won't
respect your
condemn the shooting
opinion
of an
too. I respect your opinion too, but I'm really afraid that I just get concerned when I see children in that situation, and that's why we're having the conversation today.
Right, and I wouldn't condemn a German citizen who would have went and shot Dr. Mengele. I would not have done it myself, just like most people did.
You know, this isn't what the show's about. It's about children being involved in this. And I've been involved 8 years in the pro-life movement because of when I was 17 years old, I went to have a legal abortion in South Carolina, and the abortion failed. It was a suction curettage abortion, a botched abortion, and I had a 3-pound baby girl, which right here is the medical record. So I exercised my choice, right? Well, as a result, I have my beautiful daughter with me now, Heidi.
Hi, Heidi. Come on. How are you? Nice to meet you.
And I would just like to say, you know, I know that everybody has their own opinion on this and everything, but I have pro-choice friends. I am not here to say that if you're pro-choice, I'm not going to talk to you. And one thing they say is nobody can deny. I mean, you may have your own view about what abortion does, but nobody can deny that if that abortion worked, I would not be standing here today. No matter if it would have killed me or just whatever, I would not be standing here if that abortion worked.
So you have a real personal story about your reason for being there. Are you at all concerned with the amount of violence and the amount of pushing and shoving and the cars and the kids running all over? Do you think out there is a place for kids? Do you think teaching violence is something that will help you make your point?
I don't believe in teaching violence and like killing abortionists or anything like that. I only believe in what the Bible says, and that says that God formed us in our womb, and I know that He creates each and one of those babies. And a lot of pro-choice people say that to have an abortion because of unwanted pregnancies because they're sure to be abused. I was an unwanted pregnancy, and I've not been abused in my whole entire life. So I mean, that's just a misconception.
How old are
there.
you?
I'm 15.
15. Let me introduce you to another teenager who I told you she's faced an awful lot more than you have. She could possibly end up in jail for 5 years. We will bring this young lady to you right after this. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you very much. See, that adds a whole nother... And already she's been expelled from school for passing out graphic anti-abortion literature. She's been arrested 80 times, and she's even facing a possible 5-year jail sentence. At 16 years old, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to a young lady named Jamie.
Hi, my name's Jamie. This is some literature I'm offering.
I support Jamie in doing what she's doing because she has a conviction that life is important and it's being destroyed.
As a Christian, I'm called to be salt and light, and salt is a preservative. It cures rot, and this is a place of rot.
She became very educated on the subject, and that zeal, that passion for defending life started to take a life form of its own within her.
They're trying to intimidate our patients from coming into the clinic. They feel that if they're here and if they see them praying and carrying signs that they won't come in.
A lot of people find the signs shocking, and I say, well, it's not any more shocking than the fact that we're allowing babies to die.
That's when I started learning that abortion really was killing children by the pictures that I saw and the graphicness of them. And then I couldn't understand why people could actually do that to children.
Jamie is joining us with her mom, Laura. I'd like to welcome both of you here today. Thank you. Jamie, I understand that you were just 9 years old when you begged your mom to let you be a part of the movement. How does a 9-year-old get to know about protesting and abortion and...
I was 12.
12 when you begged, okay. So why? What was it that hit you at 12 years old that would make you?
I was compelled to do something about trying to stop the murder of innocent children.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that since 1/3 of my generation has been killed by abortion, and we are the next generation, we're the ones that are going to be having to live in this world. And I don't want my children having to fight the war that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my parents failed and my grandparents failed. So basically, it's all up to our generation. So I want to end it right now while we can, because I don't want my children having to do this.
Mm-hmm. Laura, were you involved in the movement and Jamie was watching you and going out with you as well, or?
I had been involved probably a year and a half before Jamie started asking more and more questions about the abortion movement. I spent about a year and a half in jail around the country, and she knew what I was doing and why. But at the same time, she found the frustration that I found, that when she tried to explain her position, people didn't believe her. So she started to become more educated so that she could explain that.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to the constitutionality, for example, the reason they're at the clinics is because they believe the choice of the baby is being denied. And this is a country of democracy.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be of freedom. We're supposed to be of choice. Well, if we're going to allow, as a nation, the most defenseless human being to be destroyed and to sit by and do nothing, then we cannot call ourselves real Americans.
And you would rather...
And she understood that because she came from a family that believed in democracy.
Mm-hmm. There's some who say your kid needs to be in school. What do you say to the people who take...
good grades. She's an excellent student. She was
Suspended.
suspended.
Rolonda, it's my understanding, and I could be not remembering this correctly, but that Laura herself had said that she was going to have to make Jamie stop rescuing if she didn't bring her grades up, that she was virtually failing in every subject. And I'm quite certain that I saw that on an interview.
This is Janie Bush, who works at an abortion clinic in Dallas, Texas, and for years now she says that she's watched the demonstrations that Jamie's been a part of, and she says that the kids are just too young to understand the issues.
I absolutely
if Jamie should
believe
fail
that.
anything, then I would not allow her to do this because there's an obligation that she has academically. And as a result, she's always been an excellent student. So I've never had that
When
problem.
Jamie first started, one of the first interviews that was ever done with her indicated that she absolutely knew nothing about fetal development. So I find it very interesting that a 12-year-old can tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies when, by her own admission, she didn't even know what a trimester was.
Any book in this country in embryology states that it's life at the beginning of fertilization. And I don't believe the most ignorant American can sit there and deny the fact that an innocent life, is being taken prematurely. The Supreme Court never said it wasn't a human being. We all know it's alive and of the human species. And for women to sit back and to whine and say that they can't stand to carry a child for 9 months, the same way a man has to pay child support until he's until a child's 18
Gee, you
years
disgust
old,
me. Listen.
is pathetic.
Listen. Do you realize that you're condemning women, teenagers our age, to death through illegal abortion? You claim to be saving the unborn, but you're condemning your own friends, your peers to death, and you don't realize that. Maybe you grew up in a supportive family, but what if someone doesn't? What if someone can carry that pregnancy to term, and you're robbing that person? And it's one thing for this middle-aged white yutz to say that teenagers aren't having sex and that this is wrong, but you grew up in this society. You should know that abortion is the only option for a lot of teenagers, and I think you're turning back on the people of your generation.
Now, it's interesting. Here's a whole group of young ladies. All of you are pro-choicers. So you're like on the other side of the battle lines there. What do you say?
Okay, I'm going to say I'm 14 years old, and I am by no means ready to have a baby. Not emotionally, physically, financially. And are you saying that if I were to be raped and my choices are to have this baby or to have an abortion, I could no way carry a child and have this baby. It would ruin my life. If I was raped, how can you tell me that
they have found that
this?
people of rape have been able to overcome the victimization of rape by
Can you say that? How? Can you
is there, and it
can you
showed
say
that
that?
something
How
good
can
came
you
from it
take
anyway.
something that is such a tragedy and is such a crime of violence, and someone takes something as great as sex and does something so disgusting with it and turns it into a violent crime? And how can you say that women can statistically overcome, or these statistics can overcome? How can you force a woman to carry a pregnancy to term?
Rolonda, I would. Rolonda, I'd like to get back to the topic at hand.
Yes, Jamie.
Out of
And
all
that
the
is
women that have been raped, there's very few that have become pregnant.
Okay, Janie. Janie, one at a time.
I want to. Women are just
Wait, you can't talk without the microphone. Hold on.
If your commitment is about protecting children, you better start protecting the ones you already have and not sending them out into dangerous situations.
Right. We have places that children could go to, parents could go to. We have crisis pregnancy centers, we have boarding, we have sheltering, we have unwed mothers' homes that people can go to when they need financial support, clothing, food. So there is help out there. They just need to find it.
From the
There's
audience.
nothing worse than killing a child.
From the audience,
I'm
please.
addressing Joshua and Sarah, and my hat's off to you, sir, my fellow Christian. It's only two ways to live. It's a right way and a wrong way. Follow your father's advice. An unborn child is alive. Every species on earth recreates. Fight for your rights. There's only a few of us. It's easy to be wrong. It's easy to have a baby.
And you're saying amen.
Amen. Preach it, lady.
Amen.
Preach it, sister.
They got the commandments.
Okay, all right, okay. This is an entire family I'm going to introduce you to when we come back. Your whole family has ended up in jail together, right?
Most of us.
Most of you. Well, we'll talk to this family when we come back. Okay. Police Department reports that there were 421 children arrested for pro-life activities in 1991. The abortion war is also a family matter, as we're hearing today for Rick and Joan Blinn.
Want to take it bye-bye? No, Mike.
While other families may rise early for an outing to a water park or soccer practice, or maybe even to see grandma, the Blinn family has quite a different sort of destination in mind this morning.
Lord, I pray that the hearts of people would be changed and that they would come to you instead of going to the abortionist. Jesus.
Joan and Rick say they are on a mission to save the lives of unborn children, and they believe their 9 children may be the most persuasive soldiers in the battle against abortion.
And it is the next generation, we believe, that's going to win this battle, and that's why we come, and that's why we bring our children.
With their signs and their chants and their children in tow, the Blinns pace and they picket outside Dallas area abortion clinics one Saturday each month.
Can we please help you, ma'am? Please talk to us. We care about what happens to you.
They don't know anything about children, and the group that's here spends most of its time hanging out with lesbians and homosexuals, so they don't know anything about family.
Our parents never make us go to the clinics. It's our choice to go, and if we don't want to go, we don't have to.
That does need to be capitalized.
It is capitalized.
The Blinns also never send their kids to school. Instead, they are schooled at home and in the streets, where police arrested 8 of their children. On this day, it was another member of the group who seemed to get on the wrong side of the law. It comes with the territory for crusaders of all ages in the pro-life movement raging across America.
Okay, so it's all right.
In Jesus' name, what is the reason?
The Milwaukee Police Department reports that there were 421 children arrested for pro-life activities in 1992. The abortion war is also a family matter for Rick and Joan Blinn.
Want to take it bye-bye? No, Mike.
While other families may rise early for an outing to a water park or soccer practice, or maybe even to see grandma, the Blinn family has quite a different sort of destination in mind this morning.
Lord, I pray that the hearts of people would be changed and that they would come to you instead of going to the abortionist. Jesus.
Joan and Rick say they are on a mission to save the lives of unborn children, and they believe their 9 children may be the most persuasive soldiers in the battle against abortion.
And it is the next generation, we believe, that's going to win this battle, and that's why we come, and that's why we bring our children.
With their signs and their chants and their children in tow, the Blends pace and they picket outside Dallas area abortion clinics one Saturday each month.
Can we please help you, ma'am? Please talk to us. We care about what happens to you.
They don't know anything about children, and the group that's here spends most of its time hanging out with lesbians and homosexuals, so they don't know anything about families.
Our parents never make us go to the clinics. It's our choice to go, and if we don't want to go, we don't have to.
That does need to be capitalized.
It is capitalized.
The Blends also never send their kids to school. Instead, they are schooled at home and in the streets, where police arrested 8 of their children. On this day, it was another member of the group who seemed to get on the wrong side of the law. It comes with the territory for crusaders of all ages in the pro-life movement raging across America. That's quite a scene. This is the whole Blend family joining us. Some of the, well, not all of it. That's right. How many children?
We have 9 children.
9 children, and you bring them right out there in the front line.
Absolutely.
Now, you were the man just saying amen to the lady there.
Absolutely.
Tell us what your position is.
Our position is that every life is valuable. And our position is that people like Janie Bush and Joan Clark, who make their living killing children, have no platform to tell us how to raise ours.
Was it a tough thing for you as parents to decide to bring the children out to the front line? Did you have a long discussion about this? I mean, how tough a task was this to decide?
I have always believed in the protection of the Lord, and the Lord has always been gracious to us. And actually, it's more dangerous for our children to go to the public school in Dallas than it is for us to take them to the abortion mill.
And you guys agree. Little guy, what is it like being out there?
Well, it's interesting to see how violent the other people are. They say we're violent, but they're the ones that are screaming and yelling. We're out there kneeling down and praying and holding our signs and not screaming and yelling like they are.
Do you think what you're doing is the right thing to do?
Yes.
Would you encourage other kids to do what you're doing?
Yes.
Why is it important that kids get involved in this war as you see it?
Because we're the ones that are gonna win the battle for life, and not our parents, because they haven't done it yet.
Do your friends give you a lot of heat because of what you do?
Not very many of them. We're in Christian school, and our friends, most of them are Christians, and the ones that don't agree with us, I'm a relatively opinionated person, and most of my friends won't argue with me for very long.
And has it ever gotten to a point where you were worried about their well-being? Because there is a lot of shoving and pushing. There is a lot of potential for danger for them.
Well, as Joan said, we rely on the protection of the Lord. Our children are always we have a buddy system when we're on the street. They take care of each other. When they risk arrest, which is never our objective is always to try to save the life of a children. But when they risk arrest, they go in a pair, and we just believe that the Lord will protect them. He's given us that word, and so we stand on His word.
Okay, thank you.
Rolonda,
Thank you.
It's
Yes.
it's real distressing
Thank you,
for
family.
me to hear some of this when I see families and the Blends come out on very busy streets with little tiny children. When I see some of the people that are their associates hold little 2- and 3-year-olds up in front of me and say, "This is Janie Bush, and I want you to know that she kills little boys and girls just like you."
From the audience.
I think that's abusive.
For Matthew, for Matthew, you said that you teach your children at home. I believe that a person has his own right to an abortion, but when you put the kid out in the streets, you deprive it of his own innocence and developing his own political consciousness, opposed to that which you think in the home setting.
No, you gonna clap?
Okay. Jamie?
This whole show seems revolving around our parents throwing us in the streets. Our parents, they don't tell us, go now, go. They don't do that. We decide when to go and how we're going to do it and whether God wants us to do it. We do the right thing the way we feel in our heart.
Okay, what do you do when you have
children, girls that, and they're out there, they're old, they're of age, and they're out there, they're sexually active. Are you giving them, would they take birth control or something to prevent their pregnancies? That's still the same then. You're preventing it, but you out there, they're out there doing it. And then when someone go in there to have an abortion, it's, you know, what do you prevent them from getting pregnant? What do you do with your girls? You have girls. What are you doing with them to prevent?
Wait, hold on, because you're not Mike there. Go on.
We teach our children that sex is to be saved for the sanctity of marriage, and therefore, when they won't have any children out of wedlock, they won't ever have the need of an abortion. And and so we don't believe that birth control is the answer. What birth control says is you can't control yourself, so take this pill. We believe our children and you and everyone else who's sexually active outside of marriage can be abstinent and can abstain, and the Lord will help you do that.
We'll continue this conversation when we get back. We also have a director of an abortion clinic who claims that she sees some of the same young girls that are protesting outside of her clinic coming inside the clinic to get abortions. We'll be right back after this. Barbara's a director of an abortion clinic in Pittsburgh, and you're the one who says that you see an awful lot when you're looking at that window at the protesters.
Yes, I do. In fact, we have had some of the young women who are on the line protesting against us and other clinics come into our clinic to have an abortion. Now, you're saying that you teach these young women abstinence. Now, I don't know at what point that these young women become pregnant, but I do know one thing, that what you're telling them and teaching them on the front line that they're not following. Now, why they're not following it, I really don't know. And these people, when they come in, we ask them, well, then you are protesting against us. How do you think that we feel now about aborting you when you were saying that it's wrong? And their answer to us is, well, now that I have found out that it's different. Well, what makes it so different for them that it can't be different from these other women who have come in?
First of all, I'm not speaking for all parents. I told you what I do with my children. That's the first thing. Secondly, we just had a speech from over here from one of your pro-abort who have snuck into our ranks and now lied about our training. So I'm sure they're out there with us walking the lines. And so I'm sure that most of those that you see in there that were on the lines are your own people. It's very simple.
Well, I tend to disagree with you. And the reason why I do that is that when they call, or even after they come in, most of the time when they call to make the appointment, what they will say to us is, I cannot come on blank, blank day because I know blank, blank person is going to be there. And why would they lie to us? We don't ask why they're there. We just want to make sure that this is what they want to do and it's their decision.
Rolonda, all of this?
Yes, yes, go on.
All these various issues you keep bringing up on each segment here, they're all nothing but a smokescreen. They're all designed in order to hide the true atrocity that's taking place inside the abortion clinic, and that's that human beings are being killed. Why aren't we talking about that issue?
And you know, if it's a human being, because the issue really of the show is, do children belong in the front lines of this battle, regardless of what you mean or what you stand, what you believe in?
We're forgetting also that children can have an abortion as young as 9 without telling their parents in most of the states.
And Rolonda, what is absolutely true, to the best of my knowledge, although technically what Laura says is true, a 9-year-old could have an abortion without parental consent. The truth of the matter is that doesn't happen, because contrary to what some of these people would have you believe, the people that are working in the clinics are ethical and caring and loving people.
Well, we tend to disagree. I have nothing to gain by lying. I don't know what you think I would have to gain by lying. What I saw again and again. If these children are going out, how can you say it's wrong to have an abortion, but it's okay to go and get arrested again and again and again? And why are the kids getting arrested and not the parents? The penalties.
Come on. I'll come back to you.
Oh, I have a question for the young lady in the red sweater, Jamie.
Jamie.
At 12, I was still playing with dolls, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So at 12, why are you so interested in abortion?
Well, at 12, I was playing with dolls, but I also had a strong conviction on the side. Yeah. If if you disagree, you disagree with something in the world and you wanted to stop, you don't just sit around and say, hey, I wonder when it's going to stop. You stand up for yourself and you do something about it. I have always been taught, if you don't like something in the world, then change it. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
You know,
From the
Rolonda,
Okay, if that's true, you don't like something, so you want to change it. Aren't there a lot of other issues like wars and children starving? And do you send your kids out to war to go fight these battles? And that's the issue, is it safe? And also, if you have a strong position that you know is right, don't you just show by example and not by force?
You know, Rolonda, when the brochure was put out to lure children to Milwaukee in the summer of '92, yeah, there was a blue bus that came up from the south, bringing children. The brochure was aimed at the parents, and one of the points, it made 2 points. One was the penalties for kids are often much lighter than the penalties for adults, so you should put your children on the front lines. And the second point was, you should allow us to lead your children, and this is a direct quote, even unto death, to save these babies. Now, I'm sorry, I'm pro-choice. He's not pro-choice. That's fine. But I don't think his children should be allowed to be led even unto death.
We've got to take a quick break here. We've got to take a quick break. And we have a psychologist who's going to come on the show just to kind of round this thing up. And this psychologist believes that abortion is way too heavy a subject for little kids to understand. And she also warns parents about imposing their own beliefs on their own children. We'll be right back after this. Today about whether children should be allowed to fight in the front lines of the anti-abortion movement. And I'd like to introduce you to psychologist Carol Friedland. Dr. Friedland, you say what about this whole issue? As you listen today, what impact do you think this will have on the children?
Rolonda, I think that parents have a responsibility and a right to teach their values to a child. It's absolutely imperative. But also parents have responsibilities to protect their children, and that's not what I'm seeing happening here. These kids want to go to the rallies because what kid doesn't want an outing with their parents for the day? It's very exciting. We need more parents who want to take their children for the whole day, but it's to go to soccer practice, it's to go to a square dance, it's to go to a picnic. It's not to put the children in physical danger. And when the parent says, Mom, Dad, the parent says, I'm going to war, the child should be left home.
People, our parents, like the Blinn family, have said to their kids, you are going out for a good reason. You're going to go save a life. So that puts an incentive into a child to go out and protest.
Oh, surely the children want to be with the parents, they want to save lives, they want to do what they believe is the right thing. But when there's physical danger, which can happen at these rallies, when the parent says, I'm going to war, they should say, kids, stay home, watch Sesame Street, do your homework.
That's dying.
There are many pro-life doctors. There are many pro-life psychologists that would disagree with her because I have spoken with them. And the bottom line is, Martin Luther King said it best, that whenever you break the law, if you're going to accept the consequences of breaking that law, you have a better and higher regard of the law than the one that wrote it.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
Jamie understood that and understood the consequences.
Also,
and that's the whole point of
the Reverend King also was into
children.
nonviolence, and on both sides of this issue, there has been violence.
No, we're not talking about violence.
This man, let me introduce you to somebody who knows all too well about the violence outside an abortion clinic. He was shot at outside an abortion. I understand you have a scar on your arm to prove that you were shot. Is this a place for children? You were out there, you were shot at. Were there children out in the protests that you were in?
I'm going to answer that question, but first I'm going to say I'm very abhorrent that you've made a media circus out of the sacredness of human life.
Well, you almost lost your life to the battle because of the violence outside there. Do you think the children belong there?
I would continue on with that. You interview the Christians, you interview the pro-murderers. Have you ever shown the picture of the baby murdered?
I'm asking you a question about what our show is about today. I'm going to give you one more chance to answer it, or we can go to break. What do you think? After you were shot at and grazed by a bullet, do you think the children need to be out there with you when bullets are flying back and forth and people are shoving and there's a lot of violence right now outside abortion clinics? Is that a place for children?
Of course not. Of course not. And then one of the reasons when they interview me to go on the show, I say children have to be children. That innocence, the beauty, the sacredness of life. My kids and I go swimming every day, horseback riding, running, hiking. Just went to Colorado. Every day is a gift of God, and we treasure every day. Abortion is should not, no child, not even an adult, should be preoccupied with the murder of innocent children. However, you know what child abuse is? This TV. You know, this is child abuse bringing my kids here. I don't have a TV in my house because this is child abuse.
Then why are you...
And we'll be right back after this. Thank you. Thank you. The argument could continue and continue, but we've run out of time. I'd like to thank you so much for watching today. Thank you for both sides of this issue presented so well, and we will see you next time on Rolonda. Thank you.